It's good morning, Commodore Peter Scott. Thank you for joining us here at Yellow Shelf, Peter.
G'day, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Peter, it's my pleasure. You are the author of a book, Running Deep. It's a memoir about, I guess, your time, your 3 decades uh, in a submarine career, the life, the learnings, the journey. What do we need to know about your book, Peter? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so thanks, Joe. So running deep in Australian submarine life kind of tells you what it's about. And it is a memoir. As a memoir, it's most definitely a truthful account. But I would say at the outset, it's not the entire truth because it was never meant to be an expose of, the where and when of our top secret submarine missions. I go as close to the edge there as I can, but what it does cover is it covers my service career. A great deal of that was spent in and around submarines, so it focuses on that part of it. I think it captures something of the mystery. There's definitely some mystery around submarines. Something of the thrill of living and working on board those boats. It's full of both adventure and misadventure along the way. But I would hope that it captures one thing in particular, and that's that enduring satisfaction of living and working in submarines and living and working with the people who take them to sea as warriors. That's what I'd like people to get out of the book if they get to read it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Peter, I was thinking about talking to you this morning, and yeah, like what I know about submarines is what I see on the movies or potentially a documentary that I've seen about, submarines somewhere around the world. So I was interested to hear about, yeah, just the book sharing life under the sea,
Yeah.
I guess, and where that takes you. Tell me what inspired you to write the book. Did you retire and write the book, or tell us about that,
Yeah.
decision to dive into being an author? Are you a
Right.
first-time author?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, that was an adventure. So I stepped out of full-time Navy in 2017, and I was working in defence-related stuff for a handful of years after that. Really, I needed to get myself in a position where I could put other things aside and focus on writing a book. And I did that in 2021. So as COVID hit, I quite happily was hunkered down here in my study and researching and going back and writing a book. Um, uh, so it's one of the sort of not awkward, but sort of weird things about writing a book about submarines is that for me and for, most of my mates and colleagues, a life in submarines is a super ordinary thing. Like
Yeah.
it's extraordinarily ordinary for us. But I know that for most Australians like yourself, it's an exotic and it's a largely unknowable way of life. Um, so um, I know that it can be hard to understand because you take your images from movies and all that sort of stuff. It's also really easy to misunderstand it. So I wanted to write something that would offer people a bit of insight into that genuinely rare way of life, show them what it's like to live that life, what it takes out of people to do it and do it well, and also what it means to be any Australian servicewoman or man, but in particular an Australian submariner. Um, so there's certainly, part of my ambition was to um, offer some greater appreciation of the value of our submarines, as a deterrent and as an offensive naval capability. And I'm sure there's part of me that, was hoping to inspire further generations of Australian submariners. Although I readily accept that a whole bunch of the stories in there are more likely to frighten people off than they are to, entice people along. But
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. And look, I guess if you're a parent of somebody who's thinking about it or who's, thinking about a career, it's really insightful. Peter, you don't hold back in many of your shares. I'm interested to hear about life now. So, I mean, I don't know if this is true. I read that you now run ultra long distance marathons, and hence the title Running Deep is a kind of a play on words for me when I think of that.
Yeah, yeah,
You hold a master's in coaching psychology. So
yeah,
tell us about life now.
yeah. So the title there, Running Deep, there's a few plays
Okay.
on different things which you might see through the book.
Sure.
Certainly running is one of them. For me, you don't do much running at sea in the submarine,
No.
but I've always enjoyed coming alongside and putting on a pair of shoes and going for a run wherever I was to,
Yeah,
explore a little bit.
sure.
Um, and these days, I described it to someone the other day as I think I've traded the majesty of the sea for the majesty of the bush, and I love to get out on the trails and just go for a run with mates or on my own or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's a new. Well, it's not so new. That's an obsession anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's a
Yeah.
pretty healthy one, isn't it? Outdoors and
Uh,
racing
y-
yeah.
Generally, yeah.
And look,
And,
Peter, finally, if we're interested in the book, if we're interested to
yep.
connect with you, I'm going to put this information in the show notes, but tell us about your website. I know you can get the book on Amazon. Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about how do we connect?
Yeah. So the book is published by Fremantle Press, so it's available through them, but it's also in a whole heap of bookstores around the country. It's available online, as you say, through Amazon and so on. It's out in hard copy, e-copy, and audiobook. We got an audiobook released at the same time as it was
Oh,
published, which
awesome.
is great because lots of people like to read
Yeah.
their books in different ways.
Definitely.
Um, and yeah, my website is really simple. It's all the W's, peterscott.au.
Fabulous. Well, I'll put that in to make it easy for people to check it out and connect. Peter, we're just finally like the journey of becoming an author and writing. Is there any more books in the future, or are you just enjoying this one?
I am enjoying this one.
Yeah.
I know now how much it takes to actually get to a published book on a shelf, and
Yeah.
I think you've got to have a really clean and clear purpose behind setting out to write a book. So there's nothing there at the moment. Maybe down track, but
Yeah.
I think
I always ask that cheeky question. I
uh,
think, I mean, your career, an outstanding accomplishment, and even writing a book as well, and being able to share your journey. Well done, Peter.
thanks, Joe. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for joining us.
Not at all. Thanks very
Cheers.
much.